Hey there, I'm Stan from Discovery Campus and welcome to TechMan Stan, the show where we talk about tech stuff. Today I want to talk to you about a shoulder rig. So the primary purpose of a shoulder rig is to stabilize your shots when you're out there shooting video. If you're doing a handheld shot, you're probably getting quite a bit of shake. This will help with that, but of course the ultimate is the gimbal, something like a Ronin M or whatnot. This particular shoulder rig, we use it quite frequently, and it's made by a company in Canada called Shape. There's other companies like Red Rock Micro that create these rigs as well, but the basic construction is all the same. Let's start at the beginning here, right at the front. You've got a couple of rails, they're cylindrical rails that run from front to back, and that forms the backbone of your rig. The next piece on here that comes as a separate unit is the handlebars. Now, the handlebars obviously let you hold the rig when you pick it up, and they're also adjustable. So you can pivot them by pressing in the little button, the red button in this particular case, and that provides better comfort for how you're holding it. The next bit of equipment that's on the rig is the cage, and that's this big square thing. So it's a square cutout shape. It's got holes that are threaded along the sides and sometimes on the top as well. The purpose of the cage is to hold the camera. So in this case, we've got a Sony a6500, and that would sit right here in this cage. If you've got a bigger camera, like the Blackmagic series of cameras, you may need a bigger cage for it. So just be aware of whatever you're using, size the cage appropriately. Hanging off of the cage in this unit is the electronic viewfinder. And this allows you to view your shot because your view will be obstructed, as we'll see in a second, when you try to use the viewfinder on the camera. Moving back a little bit, probably the most significant part of the rig is the shoulder support underneath here, which has a bit of padding so it doesn't rub into your bones too much on your shoulder. And then finally we've got a vertical cheese plate, and a cheese plate is simply a plate with pre-drilled holes that are threaded. This one's solid aluminum. There are plastic ones, but we prefer the aluminum one instead. Then there's another middle plate in between the battery pack, which is this big rectangle on the back here, and the cheese plate. So let me just take off this battery. There's a little switch on the side here. Just press it and you can dismount the battery. This plate is a V-mount plate. It's a power distribution plate that allows you to plug items into it. In this case, it has one connector for that, and the battery also has a couple of different connectors on it to plug things into. So just to reiterate, you have to have this V-mount plate, a compatible V-mount battery, and a cheese plate just to get your power supply all tidied up. So this particular battery is made by ProX, and it's a 14-volt battery. On one side, we've got the battery gauge that shows how much charge is left in this particular battery. And on the opposing side, we've got a USB port, which is very handy for charging different things like your phone or, in this case, a camera. And it's also got a P-tap or a D-tap port, which is your standard unregulated voltage output that you can use to power lights, perhaps even a microphone, other accessories. So I'm going to throw this back on the end here. So that's a bit about the power supply itself. Now that we have a battery like this, we've actually got to power a camera such as this one. There's a couple ways to do that. Some of the Sony a7 and a6500 series cameras can be powered through their USB port on the camera while it's being used. Some previous editions of the cameras could not do that, but that's fairly standard these days that you can. The problem with that though is you might want to use another accessory, such as a remote control, which plugs into the USB port. So that renders the camera's USB port already occupied. So another way to do this, to power the camera, is by using a dummy battery. And that's how we've got this one hooked up here. So this dummy battery, it's available online. This dummy battery simply goes into the battery compartment and it clicks into place. There's a little blue clip in this particular camera that holds the battery from coming out. So that was a good design feature from Sony. Do notice though that you have to use it with the door open. So just be aware of that so you don't break your battery door. And it needs a bit of clearance. That's why we've got this thicker mounting plate on the bottom so that you can get away with that. I'm gonna pop it right into its holder. What we're using in here is a Manfrotto quick release mount so that we can get the camera in quite quickly and remove it if we have to. So there it is, all connected to the dummy battery. Of course, the opposite end of the dummy battery has to plug into something, which in this case is the USB port on this particular battery. Now you can buy D-tap to USB splitters. So if you don't have a USB port on the battery, the P-tap or D-tap can be split into that. So there we go. We have the battery connected to the camera. You're good to go for several hours with this. We've run this rig probably for 6 or 7 hours off of this battery. But there's one more thing you're gonna have to power, and that is the electronic viewfinder on the opposing side here. Let me just show you why you need that viewfinder. So I'm gonna mount the rig here on the wrong shoulder. But as you can tell, if I try to look at the display on the camera itself, it's off center. I won't be able to see it from this angle, and it's gonna end up in strange shots. So you usually have to have a electronic viewfinder connected to the camera. This particular viewfinder lets you open it up so that you can see the display without having to use the eyepiece. All right, so where does that plug into? Well, we've got that secondary connector in the back here. This is our D-tap connector, so we'll just plug that in. Now we've got our viewfinder hooked up, the camera's hooked up, we're ready to shoot for as long as your memory card is gonna hold. These rigs, they're really convenient and they're really durable for the run and gun style shooting. So that's it for the rig. Feel free to comment down below, like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, I'm Stan from Discovery Campus. Thanks for watching TechMan Stan.